The forest took me to a place that doesn't exist. I thought about killing myself all the time. Intrusive thoughts, like jumping off buildings, bridges, throwing myself in front of cars, or throwing myself towards the rocks in the ocean. Something inside me was eating me up from the inside, and I assure you, it was bigger than any ghost anyone has ever written about on the site. I spent a few nights using some substances and hooking up with any guy I met at the club. My psychologist said that this was a desire to indirectly kill myself. My friends recommended that I look for hobbies to keep me busy, like going to the gym, doing morning runs, swimming, or Pilates. None of these options appealed to me. On a random Thursday, February 20th, at 7 in the morning, I took my parents' car and drove along the main road. There was a small town next to mine. It was an old indigenous reservoir. I didn't tell anyone, because I was afraid they would judge me as a young ritualist. But I was going there because I had heard about a ritual that reconnected you with your innermost self and promised to make you come to terms with your past, and there was a lot of it that you wanted to forget. I drove along the road, and it was swallowed up by the trees, always trusting Google Maps. I parked at a gas station diner to fill up and eat something. It was when I turned left, towards a dirt road, almost closed, that I felt that things were starting to get strange. The GPS was constantly updating the routes, making me go deeper and deeper into the forest. I used to like this silence. I didn't even turn on the radio. It was just the wind blowing through some leaves and the wheels of my parents' old truck getting dirty with dirt. At some point, I came across a deer among the trees. It watched me, and I did the same, slowing down. I loved deer, and that made me instantly happy. I took out my cell phone and took a few pictures before it turned its tail toward me and headed into the forest. I continued on my way for about another hour, but when it got to 2 in the afternoon and I hadn't got anywhere, I started to worry. Between twists and turns, it felt like I was entering a stomach, a small red pickup truck with a stupid and depressed girl being swallowed by the pine trees. My terror grew. The car stopped with a full tank of gas. The cell phone turned off with 40% of its battery still left. A noise, a moaning of some animal in the middle of the forest. I was in the middle of a road, lost. Apparently, the place I was looking for to make me believe in life again was the place I was going to die. I thought, because I have funny thoughts when I'm nervous. I was in shock, trying to start the car and my cell phone, cursing the gods, which was a terrible idea since hours later I would pray to all of them. There was no way I could walk all the way, after spending an hour in the car, and even more so without a GPS. I settled into the car, left all the doors locked, and hoped that another car would pass by, perhaps another depressed person looking for a cure who could help me get out of there alive. I fell asleep, and I woke up. It wasn't night, it wasn't day. I wasn't even in my car seat. I looked around me. I was in a room like a parking lot. There was only a small light in the center. There was nothing in that place. And I mean literally, just 4 bare walls surrounding me, no doors, no hidden exits or anything on the floor, just a light that illuminated the empty field. How had I gotten there? I was in despair. As if just being there made me feel claustrophobic, I started to lose my breath, to feel hungry, to feel thirsty, as if something inside me was suffocating me, as if there was a cork in my throat. I tried to scream, but to whom? To where? I banged on the walls and made no sound. My own voice wouldn't come out. How could I have slept in my locked car and woken up in a place where there is no entrance or exit? How could I not even remember how I got here? At some point, the feeling of hunger and shortness of breath passed. I think it was just an anxiety attack, but I still felt desperate and wanted to cry. However, I had entered survival mode. I started looking for something, this time more carefully so I could get out of there. I stayed for what seemed like hours, days, my sanity practically disappearing. So I decided that instead of dying a slow death from hunger, I decided to die quickly. I hit my head against the wall once, and twice, and 3 times until I fell to the ground, still awake, still breathing, but so tired that I passed out. I woke up in the forest. Thank God. I screamed and smiled and cried. I kissed the ground beneath me. My head still hurt, and there was dried blood on my forehead, which made me understand that this was real. The sun was still out. I was happy. I was lost among the trees. I still had no idea how I was being transported to places I was indifferent, but at least now I had a chance to go back home. I had a chance to get out of there. I could see the sky, I could breathe the air. So I started running, and I know that many people in the US disappear in the woods or are killed by bears, but I didn't think about the statistics. I just ran, looking for any trace of human life. And by some miracle, or a lot of prayer, I found it. The red truck was there, shining in the light of the end of the day. My eyes couldn't hold back the tears when I got to it. I noticed through the window that my cell phone was also on by the lights of my mother's call notifications. But as soon as I tried to open the door, nothing. It was locked, just like I remember leaving it before falling asleep. How could that be? I didn't have time to think. I just looked for the biggest rock I could find there, punched the passenger window, squeezed through the shards, and jumped into the driver's seat, my cell phone on. The key, when I turned it, the engine started. It was the best noise I've ever heard in my life. And when I started the car, the old radio started playing some Beatles, and I started laughing uncontrollably. I didn't know what had happened, but I was extremely happy. The important thing was that I was alive. But I couldn't even turn the car when the same deer appeared between the trees, strong and helpless. Its black and huge eyes stared at me. And now, it didn't seem beautiful anymore. It didn't even look like an animal. Its eyes had the anger of a human or something else. So I finished the turn and accelerated towards the way back. At that moment, the deer also came out from between the trees and started running. I'm going to survive, you piece of shit. I couldn't stand all this for nothing anymore. I accelerated even more, until I lost sight of him. So I started to take it easy on myself. My head was still burning and night was falling. I checked the GPS. The route was sending me back home. Everything was perfect. It was showing 40 minutes to get off the dirt road. And once again, that place was playing with me because my car stopped again, and I was ready to freak out again. When several footsteps approached my car, flashlights shining on my dirty and bloody face, there were 11 men, all of them, white and tall, dressed in uniform and with guns on their waists. I sighed in relief. Maybe they were guards. That's what I thought before one of them shouted for me to get out of the car immediately. As a woman, I started to think the worst. We are taught to do so. "Get out now, or we will shoot," said one of the tallest ones, kicking the front of the car. "Please," I got lost, "but the authorities are already on their way. They have my location. They will be here soon," I lied as I got out of the car. They whispered among themselves, but the bigger guy, without showing any reaction, continued. "The authorities don't go up this mountain, nor the locals, nor should you." "Why?" 31. "Take the girl, don't scare her," he said, referring to one of the guys who was right behind me and grabbed my arm, but without using much force. "Cooperate with us, and you'll get home safely," the guy said in my ear while putting a blindfold on my eyes. "Please, don't do anything to me. I'm too scared." I begged and asked for things like that while they pushed me into the forest. I tried to escape and run a few times, but the gun on their waist reminded me that I wouldn't get that far. My tears were running, and I felt like I was almost fainting from hunger, thirst, pain, when I felt with my feet that the ground changed. It wasn't uneven like in the forest, it was smooth. The cold and windy weather stopped. It became warm, and behind me, I heard a door slam. I spent a few minutes screaming for someone to tell me what was happening. I heard some whispers, but most of them were in codes and numbers. Some of them said something about empty spaces, which I unfortunately had been there. I spoke regretfully, while the car reprimanded and told him to never talk about worms around me again. Some time passed. I was standing with my legs threatening to give way, when someone pushed me again. Another door closed behind me, and I sat down on what looked like a chair. Someone removed the blindfold from me, and I realized that I was in a room, this one with a dark window, lights, and a door. In front of me, a table with water and a natural sandwich. And on the other side, which surprised me, was a woman. "You can help yourself," she said, and I swallowed everything in a matter of minutes while she watched me. The woman wore the same black uniform as the others, and her face was free. She had brown hair and greenish eyes, and she looked to be between 40 and 50 years old. "Girl, unfortunately, do you know why you're here?" "No," I replied. "You entered an area that is restricted to the United States Army. No citizen can pass through that road. Didn't you see the signs or the fence?" "No," I replied again, trying to remember something, but there was nothing this type. "Just an open road, I'm sorry, I didn't know." The woman just write something down. "Stay calm. I just need you to tell me everything you remember about your time here." And so I told her everything. why I was going there, the indigenous village I wanted to see, still a little scared of being executed in secret and no one ever knowing my whereabouts again, but I told her. And after telling her about the room I stayed in for a few hours or days, it seemed, I added, was that from the government? No, she replied. Then what was it from? She ignored me. You'll get an IV here, and we'll discharge you as soon as you feel better. You've been through a lot today. We want to make sure you're okay, and you'll be released. I was taken to a room. This time a kind man attended to me. He looked like a nurse. He put the IV in my arm and I fell asleep. I woke up. A loud noise was making my head hurt, the smell of fried eggs and bacon. I was sleeping at the counter of the diner. It was full of people there. It was already morning. One of the waitresses called my name. Finally woke up, huh? You must have had quite a trip. And she handed me a plate of avocado and a black coffee. I ate that, drank the coffee, felt my cell phone in my pocket. There was no call from my mother or photo of the deer, and its battery was fully charged. In the other pocket, the keys to the car. After paying the waitress, I went to the parking lot and it was in perfect condition, without a single scratch. The wheels were clean and the window intact. Everything seemed like a dream, except for the scar on my head and the small mark from where they had put the serum. I checked my cell phone again, and the date was February 24th, a Monday. I spent the whole weekend in that place. I thought about going to the local police and reporting everything, but I was so tired that I just went back home. I looked into some kind of army reservation there, and there was nothing registered. I went on the Indigenous Reservations Instagram, and the account was simply deleted. I didn't tell anyone. Only a nerdy friend I know, who told me to report all of this here. I didn't even know about this social network. I'm an Instagram girl, but I've been reading about backrooms, seat alim, and hidden bunkers. And I don't know if any of the stories on this site are real, but I'm desperate because I'm afraid of being watched and I don't know who to help. I'm writing this on March 19, almost a month after the events. My nerdy friend and I went to a concert by one of our friends' rock bands near Oregon, where the road passes, and then he decided to stop by without telling me. We passed by the same road, but where the gas station with the diner should have been, there was nothing else there, and where the dirt road should have turned, there were nothing but trees. I was outraged and stressed. I made him park in the spot. He started laughing, saying that I made it all up, or that I hit my head really hard. We started walking on the side of the road. That's when we noticed the big trees placed there, dozens of trees and thorny plants covering the dirt road. I told you so, I said. Man, they really are trying to hide something. We didn't look for anything. We went back on the road towards the concert. I'm writing all this on my friend's account. I'm afraid they're still watching me. I'm afraid of falling asleep and waking up in that room. I'm afraid that deer is still chasing me. And worst of all, that one day he'll find me. If you live near Oregon, you might know which road I'm warning you about. If you've had an experience like this, please contact me, either in the comments or here. I just need to know if you've been there too, and how to get rid of this sick feeling.